All right, we should be good, Diane.
Okay. Hi, David. I see you now. Okay. Well, we don't have as complicated an agenda as we did last time, so maybe we'll get out before dark. I had intended to convey greetings from Josh, which I think I can still do because he won't be joining us today. He's on vacation, and this would have been his last meeting because he has now been reassigned to work with other units and departments. But yeah, if Blaine joins us, that would be great. Today or in subsequent meetings, we'll welcome him. So just one point on the agenda when we get to the formal agenda, that COVID-19 update. Mike says he thinks we can scrub that item now. We seem to have moved forward enough that we don't need a formal update anymore. I didn't want to send out a whole separate agenda just for that. So maybe you can just, scratch that one and thank goodness that we've reached that point. So actually, before we begin the sort of business of the day in the meeting, there is something that we want to do. Les is here with his trusty dog, Susie, who we'll recognize by name, Pat Susie. But this is Les's last meeting. His term ends at the end of this month. And so, as is usual, we'd like to have Mike, the director, say a few words and give a presentation to Les, and then I'll follow with a few thoughts, and then I'll ask any of the rest of you if you'd like to give some thoughts and words to Les, and then we'll finish up with asking Les if you want to say anything in reply. So let's do that, and maybe Susie will put in a bark or two at the end. So I'll turn it over to Mike. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, this is sad because Les and I, when I got here, Les was really helped me out a lot. When I came, he showed me around, the community. We also, had a lot on our plates. We had the SCASD grant. We had the incentive plan. We had some things, with the authority that were going on as well. And of course, we kind of revamped a little bit of the financials as well. He really helped me get acclimated to the job, and really, I guess if it wasn't for some of his time, it would have taken me much longer, to get situated, especially with the success we had with the SCASD grant, and then also the incentive plan, and meeting a lot of the other folks in the community as well. We would tag team, go around to the chamber and different clubs and things that he knew of as well, the Ollie group, and we just tag team a little presentation and hand out some things. So getting acclimated into the community was a big thing for me, and I think that he really helped me along as well. I've only been here 3 years, and he was here, a year prior. There was a lot of things that happened prior to me as well that he was involved in. But I tell you, this airport probably wouldn't be where it is right now as far as the SCASD grant and other things, without Les. He has a lot of good knowledge of processes, from his past experience that has really helped us along too. We had an intern, we had Sarah, got a lot of things going from her. The annual report, some good information out of that came from Les. So he really put a mark on this airport in a good way, and I really appreciate what you have done, Les, for the airport. And you and I've talked about helping in the future, and covered up now with a lot of things, especially with COVID. But I'm going to take you up on that offer, because you do have a lot of good experience, and so I'm definitely going to do that. But with all of that said, I wanted to present this. The infamous
the infamous propeller
to Les.
Awesome.
And I don't have the airplane, but I think David's working on one for you. But you can
One of
hang
the
this up.
highlights of my, yeah, David
That's
took
right.
me up in his plane one time. That was,
Yeah.
yeah. Good.
But I'll give others the opportunity to join in and thank you as well for the good job you have done
Okay.
for us, Les, and just want you to know how much I appreciate you. Hey, Blaine.
Same here, Mike. It's mutual. Mhm.
Good.
Hi, Blaine. I see Blaine's joined us. Hey.
Yes, just in time to say,
Yeah, we just presented him with the propeller.
oh, that's
Oh.
awesome.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Mike. Mhm.
You're so welcome, Les.
Well, I'll say a few words. Some of them can echo what Mike said because Les had the dubious or distinct pleasure to introduce me to much when I joined the authority, and I thank you for that, Les. For those of you
You're
that
welcome.
joined subsequently, I'll just recap. I mean, Les joined the Airport Authority as a member back in July 2017, I believe, and he served a 4-year term. He also served 2 years as chair of the authority. So, we really want to thank you for your efforts and contributions. And that also extends to, your contributions to serving the community, really. You worked with the airport administration and all of us. And so we want to thank you for that. I guess since you chose not to, run for a second term, this kind of ends a chapter in your life. And, hope that you can look back on it as with good memories, and maybe take your propeller and fly off somewhere. But as you begin a new chapter, we just like to wish you all the very best and health and happiness. And as you start the next chapter in your life, maybe instead of being with us in a meeting on the fourth Tuesday of every month, you can take some walks with Susie and enjoy that aspect of life. So thank you, Les, and do
Thank you,
appreciate
Diane.
it.
Yes.
All the very best, okay?
Yes, thank you.
So anybody else would like to say a few words? I guess this is the time to do it. So, Keith?
Yeah, Les, I remember about a year ago when I joined the authority, summer of last year, we had a kickoff call, just you and myself, and you were very welcoming to me. So I really appreciate that. I think our call was scheduled for about 10 or 15 minutes, but we lasted maybe a little over an hour, but it was a very productive call, very good call from my standpoint. I remember that you have your Georgia Bulldog shirt on today. And I remember in that first call that you had the Georgia background, your ears kept
Oh, yes.
disappearing, you know how those kind of work. And so when I saw that, I knew I had a friend on the authority, right, Robert? Robert also,
Yes.
since I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan, but Les, appreciate you.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, I'd like to just say this has been one of the most rewarding experiences I had because I think maybe unlike some other commissions where you're just approving things, we actually had a chance to work on initiatives. It was super working with Mike and the rest of you, but it was really cool to see stuff actually get done. And I know in other experiences I've had, you just sort of meet and things don't happen. So I think that's been super rewarding. And I think the other thing we all have is that we live on with the strategic plan. And, of course, it's going to need updating. But I think prior to when those of us 2 or 3 years ago, and it was Blaine who really got us working on the plan, we sort of still have a roadmap that lives on and is not tied to just one individual anymore. So, although I guess, Mike is the glue and Angela that holds it together. So I don't plan to disappear, Mike and folks. So I still have 1 or 2 pet things I'm passionate about, including air service. And I still hope one day we can get going on the program with Clarke Central to get some kind of mentorship and maintenance program going. So, plus, I'll miss David taking me up. I'm glad he returned me that day. David took me to, that's probably one of the highlights, 3 different airports. And I knew I was in trouble when David told me not to sort of fall asleep, to let him know if I saw anything in the sky to notify him about. So, but it's really been a pleasure working with all of you and even some of the folks who are no longer on the committee. I think we really had some talented people. So And I think we have a lot to be proud of, and much of it though would not have happened, Mike, without you. So
I
I've still
appreciate
got
that.
some ideas, and if you're willing to listen to a few, as I say, I'm still got some maybe ideas on air service and also that mentorship and training
Mhm.
program. So,
I think that's all great. We can
so
sit
thank
down
you
and
all.
have some coffee, absolutely.
Yeah, good.
Good. Anybody else? Robert?
Yes, I just want to echo what has been said already, and thank you, Les, for your contributions to the Airport Authority, but to the Athens community in general, because you can't just, how should I say, work on the airport or be on the Airport Authority without other parts of the community coming into play, and your influence and how you have led and directed us have really made us better and made me better. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. I thank you for the SPLOST assistance. So that
Yes.
was super. And we're actually, again, seeing the fruits of that benefit. It's just so nice to be able to work hard on something and then look out the door of the airport and see it happening.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
Well, I'll just share that, it's a hallmark of public service to work with residents on moving the community forward. And, from where Mike and I sit, trying to work with the elected officials and volunteers like yourselves, and you pour yourself into these advisory committees. And really, the Airport Authority is more than just an advisory committee. I mean, y'all are working directly with Mike, and, Mike's balancing, your considerable talents and trying to form some consensus on the direction of the airport. And Les, I have a saying about you. I say to Mike from time to time, I say less is more, because you've always brought, um, your background in consulting and your keen eye for processes and operations and numbers. And then you help navigate. And let's face it, y'all. The thing that makes government difficult, and also it takes longer, is that you've got to bring a lot of people along with you when you get consensus and work through things, and it's frustrating, and people are messy, and you've helped navigate all that, Les, as an effective board chair and board member, and I appreciate that. It helps. It gives depth to the work that we do. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Blaine. And it's been a pleasure working with you. And we've been through several assistant city managers, and all of them have been. I still many days think of Robert Hiss, especially, and we really had a lot of talented people. And I'd never had a chance to be involved in government before. And I know sometimes I could have been a pain in a certain part of the body. My passion, sometimes I didn't emotional intelligence come out, but I do appreciate you all being patient with me. So.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, just wanted to note that Les and I started on the authority at the same time back in 2017, July of 2017, and he's been a bit of my brother since we were born together and on this group. Shared many coffee dates, supported Hendershots and Big City Bread a few times, and I know I will miss you, Les, here. I'm glad that we've developed this friendship through the authority, and I look forward to continuing to work with you in this community and taking you flying to look for other planes so I don't get T-boned instead.
No, thank you, David. And I think it's imperative that we have a couple of pilots. I've learned so much, and I think as advisory members, we've got people like Mike and David who will never know as much about air industry, but our complementary skills, really 1 + 1 ended up equaling 3. So David, as much as Mike, helped me navigate all the 3-letter acronyms and the websites, and I still don't know maybe 20%, but enough to be dangerous. So.
Well, and Craig is going to join us next month, and he's a pilot. So he'll help us along in that regard too. So, well, we do want to thank you, Les, and I really wish you health
Thank
and
you,
some good times,
yeah.
So,
Good. Well, thank you, Diane, and I wish you the best of luck. And,
thank you.
but you're in good hands. So, but again, I guess my last plug will be for the strategic plan. That is the roadmap, and you know,
Yeah.
had to delay some things. But I looked at it the other day, and I still think most of the things we came up with, like a potential restaurant, well, some things may need some changing. There's good stuff still in that plan, and it probably needs to be, you know, refreshed at some point. But
Well, we've already begun that, you know, thinking process about updating or, you know, refreshing, reinforcing, etc. Keith's nodding knowingly because I've already commandeered him into the first layer of tasks. So, well,
so, and
anyway,
again,
and
I'm available. By the, you know, I've told Mike, I told Grant, especially, you know, some of the
okay.
things that I had specifically worked on. I'm still planning on being here. So, and hopefully
Okay.
one day I'll depart from Ben Epps versus Hartsfield. So,
Okay. Well, certainly.
yeah.
Thank you.
I mean,
Blaine, I'd just like to say welcome to you. I extended the thoughts that Josh had conveyed that he wouldn't be here, you know, but that we would welcome you, and we weren't sure you could join us. We know how many bulls you're juggling, but anytime that you join us, we're happy to see you. So thank you. Okay, well, that was, you know, happy, sad, as such occasions always are, but thank you again, Les. And I guess now we'll turn to the formal agenda, which, as I said, is not as contorted as last month's. So I think we can clip through it in good fashion. And we can start with the minutes, which you should have received the proofed and corrected copy of the minutes from Angela yesterday. And I hope you've had a chance to look at those. I've proofed them. If you have any other additions or corrections, now's the time. Otherwise, we can move to a motion for approval. But any thoughts on those? Lots of faces, no thoughts. Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes? Les? Okay. Les moves.
Second.
Robert seconds. All right. All in favor of approving the minutes as is then? Okay. All right. Thank you. So we'll move on then. Mike's got a series of airport manager reports, as he usually does. Most of them good news, so we can be pleased with that. And so, Mike, I'll turn it over to you with the financials, etc.
All right, thank you. So here we are looking at May 2021 for the month. We're 92% into the year. We've got one more month to go, which is June. Looking pretty good. Again, we had sales for avgas at 47, almost 48 for the month to date, or for the month rather of May. Jet A 132. Leases. You'll see leases up a good bit, probably by $19,000, because as of 3 months ago, we entered into a contract with Hanson. And I think in the past, you know, you had questioned, you know, when will that be coming through? What happened was they had been paying. We thought maybe because it was a new lease, you know, they weren't quite acclimated as to where to send it, or maybe their accounts payable wasn't set up quite yet, but they had been paying on time. But it's been going downtown to finance at that address, which is okay. But finance didn't know what to do with it, so we contacted them and let them know that money is supposed to come to the airport. So they just put it all one lump sum into May. So that's why we're higher in leases for this month. But from here on out, it'll be, you know, it'll hit monthly. So let's go on down to the expenses for the month. Cost of goods, pretty much in line with our sales. 32,000 for the avgas, 64,000 for jet, and then airport admin services. All that's pretty much accurate, as we see every month, and nothing's really out of the ordinary. One thing I would like to mention as well, Keith mentioned yesterday too, that the airport fees is at 12,000. You know, in the past it was low, but we bumped it up. Usually we've had some pretty good months in fees. What happened here in this month was with the Colonial Pipeline situation, there was a shortage of fuel. So we were trying to guard every bit of fuel we had, and every airport or FBO was doing the same thing. So you know, with fees, an airplane would land. They didn't, you know, if they didn't take fuel, you know, they'd have to pay a ramp fee. Well, we waived a lot of fees because we didn't want them to hoard or you know, our fuel, or you know, going back to their home airport. We were trying to protect our fuel for our local customers and those that really needed whatever they could take, just the minimum they could take. So we kind of balanced that out, and we didn't impose the fees on them where they'd have to take the fuel. So it's kind of low this month, but that's the reason for that. If you look at the year to date, still doing very well. I'll go down to the bottom here. Well, let's keep it the month. So at the end of the month, we got 37,900 in profit, and then for the year to date, 428 in profit. And again, this does not include the depreciation or the loans, you know, that are owed. This is just pure revenues versus expenses. Any questions on that information so far? Yeah, go ahead, Les.
Yeah, I just more a comment that you've sort of not taken, I think, enough credit that one of our strategies was to start charging much more reasonable rates on the charges, the fees. What's our biggest number? Forgive me.
Let me go up.
Go up.
Yeah.
You know, the concessions. And
Concession.
I kept looking at this, say, how is Mike showing all this profit when our sales are? And you know, Mike and I talked offline one day, and we almost can break even with I don't mean without a ton of gasoline sale. This is so structured now that we are so not that sensitive at all. So anything we can make from air, from gas and fuel, almost becomes the margin pure profit, because Mike's almost covered all the expenses with those sort of fixed revenue that we have. And I don't think we pointed it up enough how much more solid the financials are now because of that. So
I appreciate that.
My point.
That was kind of my goal, was to bring the leases and all the kind of the other revenues up minus the sales of fuel to what our airport admin would be, our airport services, maintenance and all. I appreciate you bringing that up, but yeah, so everything else is kind of fluff, you know, as long as everything else works out through the month.
Which also says we probably have some cushion, just without looking at the details, to do the self-serve fuel when the time is right. So,
yes. And I have been talking to our fuel supplier as well on that. And we're still looking. I need to get with David Asman here because he and I talked about that not too long ago. He came in my office. We talked about that. I'm really still interested in doing it. With COVID, it's kind of put us a little bit behind, but I think next year we'll be able to do something with it. Let's see, moving on down to other information. You can see, let me move my screen here a little bit. Okay, so so the avgas gallons, we had 9,112, down, you know, a little bit. Honestly, I hadn't researched if it was weather or what the deal was on that. But we're at a year to date of 91,000. Again, you know, avgas, you'll see from the charts, the avgas is down. It probably won't get to the budgeted amount that I was hoping, you know, prior to COVID. But as far as Jet A, you know, I had 31,000 for Jet A for the month, and we are year to date at 379,000 gallons, which I think by June, you'll see from the chart when I pull it up. I think from June, you probably see where we might hit our budget, you know, for that. And then operations, you know, are at 4,400. And I think we probably might hit our budget for that, or our projected amount for that. We're at 37,000 right now, a year to date on operations. And you can see, down in August, and you know, where it really went crazy, and then it started picking back up again. Let me go to chart here. This chart, move up with it. So this chart here is our operations. And of course, the green line is our budget, I mean, our projected amount that we had projected for operations. And you can see we're just about to hit that with the April. Well, let's see, no, it's May, so I don't even have May in here. So I'm pretty sure I put it in. Yeah, I did put it in, but it just didn't take for some reason. But we're gonna hit our budget. I mean, our projected numbers there. I don't think I even put in this then. Let me just go down and make sure. Might not have saved. No, that one did hit. Okay. So this one did save. So we're in May here, and these are the avgas, and you can see we're way off, you know, the green projected amount. But when you go to the jet fuel, which will be up here, we're very close to the green. So I think in June, I'm hoping June will give us that that boost that we need to get to the projected number right there. Any questions?
Mike, I just have a comment. You know, you've mentioned before that actually many airports don't run at a profit. So
Oh yeah.
every month when you show us the figures, you know, I mean, I just think that it's actually really significant, you know, that when we promote the airport and, you know, share information about the airport, that we actually highlight that point. I mean, when you say that, I mean, is it really very unusual for an airport of this size to run at a profit?
It's you know, we're kind of blessed that we do have charter, and the charter really helps us. UGA, the charter, the basketball, which is really important to us. So I mean, we're blessed that we have that, and other airports don't. But I have talked to GDOT many times, and also, you know, different folks that do talk to other managers, and I do as well. But GDOT especially, and I tell them we're making money, and they say, you are? And I say, oh yeah, we are. And they say, well, that's rare. And that's what they always say, that's rare, because a lot of airports aren't. And I talk to, like I said, I go to these meetings, and I talk to some other airport managers, and some are doing just fine, but the majority of them, no, they're squeaking by. But I think we are lucky in the sense that we do have UGA, we have the charters, but then we also have a pretty heavy corporate presence here at this airport. I mean, I came in today, or was it yesterday? We had 4 or 5 jets on the ramp, and so either they're taking fuel or they're getting charged a ramp fee. So we have a pretty good presence on that as well. And then our general aviation presence is fair. It's starting to build up again. As you can see from our avgas sales, they're down, not normally what they would be, you know, pre-COVID, but they're building back up again. So we just got a very good airport with some good activity. And I know David and we talked about, well, how can we get the general aviation more interested, you know, in building that up? Well, we want to have, you know, like Saturday hot dogs or something, you know, hot dog Saturday, and kind of bring that interest, you know, to this airport. So I think with charter, corporate's fine. I think we need to work on general aviation, and we can build our revenue, you know, a little bit more.
That's a real point of pride. So, you know, I'll always make the comment. Okay. All right, Mike, back to you.
All right. Well, thank you. All right, so looking at our capital improvements, we continue to work on our localizer project and our taxiway alpha project. The contractors started bringing dirt to the localizer to build that area up, and then it started raining. So they have with as far as taxiway Alpha, they dug all of that asphalt up from Alpha 3 all the way west, which is that small section. They've dug that up all the way down to the dirt. There's a water line that comes across the airport in that area that they'll have to contend with, and we're working with Athens-Clarke County right now to lower that as well. And we'll do it. We just got to get permission, from them before we touch anything like that. And then let's see. They will probably do soil cement, I think. Well, it's supposed to be this week, but it's raining, so we're not quite sure when it's going to be, huh, Jacob? This rain just kind of put things behind a little bit. But I did talk to the resident inspector to find out, where we stood. There's a lot of different little things that can be done right now that need to be done. So they'll still continue to work, but as far as the actual construction and moving dirt and kind of stuff like that, that'll kind of be delayed maybe a week or so. Marketing and outreach activities. This was I didn't initiate this, but I'm going to mention it. It was that the local high school ROTC came out and experienced the Army helicopter rides. That was set up, I guess, by the local school system, and it was good to see them out here. They really enjoyed it. You could tell from their faces they had a great time, real good time. And then also we're having an upcoming fireworks display. It'll be displayed on the airport, and then the general public will as we did last year, go around the airport and various locations and park and watch the display. Last year, I'm telling you, that display was probably one of the best fireworks displays I'd ever seen, and I've seen a lot. We had several in Rome at the air shows, and it was just the best to me. Long, nonstop. It was really good. So that'll be happening July 3rd. We did put out a notice to the tenants, letting them know that the airport would be closed certain hours, and I can't deny tenants, and I never have when we had events, deny tenants the use of their hangar. So, but I do put in there, that if they do go to their hangars, stay at their hangars, watch it from there. And they last year they did great job, and we had a few out here, that came to their hangars and watched it. I just had to coordinate it with the local authorities because this the Ben Epps Drive is closed to the general public. But it all worked out fine last year, and we're in meetings with them too, so it'll all work out again. As far as the ClearPoint data system update, I did send Diane and Keith the update we had just done. Weren't ready to present it at this meeting. We try to do it every quarter at these meetings. It's been probably a little over a quarter, I guess, maybe 1 month. But Diane and Keith are going to look at it, see what changes need to be made. Les made a good point, that it's been, gosh, I've been here 3 years, so it's probably been 2.5 years, I guess, since we met. 2 years? 2 years since we met.
2 years since we formally published the plan.
2 years,
This will
okay.
be the start of year 3. Yeah.
Okay. So, we discussed that. I think I did with Josh, and he probably another year or two, we probably need to get together as a group again and kind of relook at this as well. Any significant changes, that is, with what we want to do in the future. As you know, things change all the time. So we'll be working on that, and then we'll get with Angela. She can update it for us, and then I'll present it to the authority members next month at the meeting. One other thing I will mention: we did have our FAA inspection about 2 weeks ago. We had the out brief last week, which is where they actually tell you what they find. There were 2 inspectors here. One is the lead inspector with the FAA airport programs, and then we had one who's new, and we were the 5th airport that he inspected, and And I think he has to have 5 under his belt before they let him go on his own. So he took a lot of pictures. I'm talking a lot of pictures. Good stuff, and things. But I look at it like this too. They're here to help us. Sometimes we don't see things, that we see every day. Also, the big things, which we already know about, like the second runway that need to be done. They take a lot of pictures of that, and they want us to use them for when we have to go get grant money, to get that project completed. They're kind of like a helping tool, I guess you could say, in getting that grant money. So some of the things and we were written up on a few things. I mean, most airports are written up on things. Well, I guess the biggest thing was our ROFA out here, our runway obstruction free area, where the trees are that I've identified, I think, to everyone before, that have to come down. When I got here, there's a lot of things that have to be done for safety. One was the runway. That was already going when I got here. Second thing, trying to prioritize all of this was Alpha. That was a big thing. Localizer was a big thing because that was identified as well. And then the other one was the ROFA and fencing. And they want us to go ahead and take care of the ROFA just as soon as we can, even prior to us getting grant money. So I had a situation similar in Rome where I had to hire some machinery and a company to come out and just grind this brush and small trees down in our obstruction area. It worked out fine. I've already contacted several of them, see if they can come out here and give me a quote. If we have to take care of it, on our own, that's fine. They didn't want to wait anymore. They said, that the airport had been told for many years now that it had to be done, and they didn't want to wait another year. So, I mean, what do? You just got to do what you got to do. So, so that's the plan for that. Also, I mean, they even went down to the little thing, like a lens on the back of our fuel truck had a very little crack. I mean, a hairline crack, and they wanted us to replace that. They actually wrote us up on that too. So, I mean, that's just to give you an idea. That's the big to the small. There's also has to be a vehicle regeneration area where these trucks that we have, vehicles that we have, that we have to have a space for them. I guess 100 feet away from buildings and any structures, and so we do have a place, but it's on asphalt. They say that it needs to be on concrete, so we have to build a little pad, a concrete pad for that as well. There's some areas on the airport that a very small area that has markings that are faded, and they actually would have been taken care of with Schedule B project. And unfortunately, they don't want to wait for that, which is only a few months down the road, actually. Probably, I don't know, probably 8 months down the road. They want us to take care of it now. So we're having to paint that on our own and throw down some glass beads. And then there's some, let's see, what else is there? Yeah. There's some arrows we have to put on the fuel farm, just placards. That's about it. And just some other small stuff, but all in all, it went fairly well. We've got dates when we have to have these corrected, and like they always give us. So we'll get all that taken care of. Yes, but that's all I had, Diane.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Any comments, questions before we move on? All right. My system's cutting in and out all the time. I don't know if yours is.
Not right now.
Now you're all back. You all disappeared for a minute. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to old business. We don't have any new business today, by the way, if that's anything. Some quick items under old business. The the Lexington Highway projects have been moving forward. So the Atlanta Highway project, so the user group work for the T-SPLOST funding. And right now in June and then through to the beginning of July, the task is that we have to actually, as members of the group, we have to go with our individual prioritization of the projects. And there are 22 of them, as you all know. And so we had to look at public input and all the data that came from the public input, as well as information that we have ourselves from work on other committees, from reading reports, etc. So it's actually not been a very easy job. I think in a nutshell, the last meeting, which was about 2 hours, was a sort of collective anxiety attack, because in order to really come up with, individual and then group prioritizations of all those projects, you could be lazy and just randomly do it, but it's not easy to do it with real thought in mind. We ended up talking about something that I had asked Derek about, that if there is a project that we really think seriously is needed and important, but it's such a big ticket item, like the entrance to the airport, that may stand a very slim chance of being, high on the list because of the size of the price, even though we were told not to look at the price ticket on these. What can be done? And Derek had suggested that we look at maybe some thoughts to propose what he called an alternative project funding strategy. So articulate a rationale for building in some caveats, he said, that, if you're not recommending, or if you're recommending funding, but it's not likely to materialize, can you suggest that the mayor and commission perhaps think of it in a different way? For example, a small amount of funding in the short term with a view to perhaps putting the project on an upcoming T-SPLOST proposal list, etc. So the work of this user group for the Lexington Road ended up actually evolving into that task that Derek ended up by asking us in this month's work to come up with 3 or 4 projects that we would provide a rationale and then several caveats for, that we could perhaps suggest they look at in a different way. The airport entrance is one that features on many of our individual lists because of the price ticket. And actually more than one of us has actually put that on our individual lists to say, if it's got a slim chance of being funded, could you consider allotting a small amount of money, or a modest amount of money, relatively speaking, to actually have a feasibility study undertaken for an engineering plan or a construction plan, a concept idea, to actually get some of the parameters nailed down, so that it's not just a big amount that can easily be scrubbed off the list. So I think, I've proposed that as one of 4 that I'm proposing, and I think several other people are thinking of doing that as well. Derek has mentioned, one possibility could be that a big project like that with a good plan, a feasibility study done, could be something that goes on the potential projects list for the next T-SPLOST. And Mike, you want to talk to us about the next T-SPLOST application in just a minute. Mm-hmm. Another one could actually equally be a much smaller project, and that's for the monument sign for the entrance for the airport. As you know, that's one of the projects, actually L1, it's the first on the list, where in some ways, even looking at that project somewhat differently might be something that we can urge, and I'm urging that as one of my 4, that, does it have to be a really big, expensive, constructed and designed sign that's going to run into a 6-figure amount? Or could it not be a more modest sign that could be funded creatively, but serve the same purpose? Because, the main purpose of that is actually to draw people's attention to the airport. Hey, it's right there. There's the end of the runway, and to give the airport, some visual identity on the corridor. Another one, for example, is the idea of that multi-use trail around the whole airport property in 3 phases. And with Mike's agreement, or with Mike's permission, I did advance the information to Derek and the group that, Mike had said was possible. And that is, you heard Mike mention fencing. There's going to have to be a margin of ground cleared for a fence, for maintenance. So why not kill two birds with one stone? At least that could reduce part of the cost of putting a trail in. And does it have to be a big, expensive, heavily constructed trail? A lot of people have actually argued, members of the public and others have argued for a more natural trail, that walkers and runners don't always like a big, hard surface concrete trail. It's hard on the feet and the legs and the back. So another way to look at it might be to put in some caveats there about a multi-use trail, but a softer, lower cost version, and pair it with a project such as the fencing project at the airport. Another one that the group has talked about is the Lexington Road, Gaines School Road intersection. As you know, if you use that intersection, it's a mess. It's, there are a lot of accidents on that. There are a lot of poles and wires and posts and things. There's a lot of visual clutter and blight on that. And it's an expensive undertaking if you look at the project list. A way of looking at that with some caveats included might be to whittle down what the really essential ingredients in that project are. For example, fixing the traffic light setup. Because they've talked about, one of those arms for a traffic signal rather than having all the wires with the lights swinging in the wind. So everybody in that user group, and I think they're doing the same for the Atlanta Highway, is looking seriously at the 22 projects and trying to pick out 2 or 3 or maybe 4 max with some carefully worded rationale. I've already sent mine in. And if those are used, they would be sent forward to the mayor and commission, actually as an interim step. I know, Blaine, the projects and the prioritization lists come to you first in July, and then they're slated to go to the mayor and commission at a work session meeting on August the 2nd. So I think it's probably a good thing to do, to think about not just ranking them and prioritizing them with all those, facts and figures, but to say, here's some carefully thought out alternative strategy if they were interested to entertain that. So that's where we are. And I guess, we still have, the rest, into July, but then in time for the prioritized list from this user group to go to manager Blaine Williams. So.
Well, the T-Splosh application.
Mike, you said that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, T-Splosh applications are open now. Deadline's July 28th. So I'll be working to do that application, to submit. And but I do, I do invite you to let's talk. We could have a dialogue on in emails, and just let me know what your thoughts are, as far as T-Splosh. But one thing that I think we all have talked about was the trail around the fence. We will have to do a fence. That's one thing that was mentioned. I wasn't written up on it, but they did mention that we definitely need a better fence when they did the perimeter checks on the airport. And I told them, it was a project that we're looking to do in the future. But we'll have to be, you'll have to have a span of about 10 feet, on each side. And that would be an ideal time to, put a trail around, or a walking trail or bike riding trail, whatever, around the airport.
Mm-hmm. So, Mike, you said that you might think about sending out an email to the group,
Mm-hmm.
maybe after the turn of the month, and then, entertain some ideas.
Yeah, so start thinking about that. I know we have done a lot of talking about it. What your thoughts might be, what you think might be beneficial to the airport. I value all of your opinions, and then I'll put it all together. We'll talk about it.
I have to say, with the public input phase, I mentioned this to you last month, it was very difficult to try and really adhere to what the rankings and the priorities were with the public input, because they then actually or Derek Doster then said, but, members of the user group also have information that they have obtained from reading reports and work on other committees and things. So there's information that we can use that the public doesn't have. And the trail thing and the fence connection is one example there. So yeah, I mean, I hope that, maybe the rest of you, Mike's probably tired of hearing from me. I hope, the rest of you can give him your 2 cents worth on. And I would urge you to think about, ways in which not just the full price ticket on the project list that was published online, but if you can think of other ways of perhaps connecting a project, to other projects in town, or thinking of different ways of conceptualizing it. The price is material on all of them, even though, you can't just ignore the price. The public doesn't ignore the price. So Mike, we look forward to that, and maybe we can provide you with some different ideas as well.
Okay.
Well, if I might, Chair, and Mike,
Okay.
I assume that with the T-Splosh submissions, I appreciate y'all bringing this up. It is very timely. And Mike, I assume you'll put the normal request for matching funds for FAA. Yeah. And then, of course, the airport, all things airport, I think would qualify under the T-Splosh. And so, certainly you look at your capital improvement plan for things that you want to accomplish, and Mike may have some other things, for instance, the parking lot for the terminal. And y'all may have already talked about these things. I was just going to weigh in on the trail. I think that if that is something that you're interested in, obviously it makes good sense. If a fence isn't a huge grading exercise, but it is some land clearing, so there would be some savings there. It might make sense to have the trail there. Mike brought this up. He said that y'all would be interested in talking about this, and we looked at it together. And certainly, you've got the Firefly Trail on the east side or the west side of the airport that's being constructed as we speak, passing by the quarry, which the commission purchased, as you know, earlier this year. And they'll probably make the area around the quarry. Of course, it'll be a water source for us, I should say, water storage facility. It will have probably some recreational aspects around it. Of course, we have to be mindful of the airport. I've always, Mike will tell you, every 6 months, I'm like, Mike, are you sure the FAA is going to be okay with this quarry and waterfowl and things of that nature? So, but I think there's connectivity, and Diane, you know this from your attention to what's going on with Lexington Road corridor. Over on Cherokee Road, the commission has approved a multi-purpose trail. Of course, you have Satterfield Park on the east side. And certainly, I mean, you could sell the connectivity of being able to go, pretty far out on the east side and all the way to downtown with only a few road crossings. In fact, from Cherokee, if you're able to get up under, the loop there and tie into the Firefly Trail, you can almost get downtown with but 1 or 2 road crossings. So, I think there's some legitimacy to the connectivity of that. The Athens in Motion group might certainly, I don't know if they ever contemplated that you guys would actually run a trail across the property. But I think there's some merit to it. There's to all these things, the intersection improvements that I think were being considered by the developer, this new development that was seeking TAD funds. There's just a lot to be on the table. So y'all as a group, I guess, would need to, advise Mike on the priorities that you'd like to see and submitted for consideration. I'll say this, Diane, invariably what will happen is the T-Splosh Advisory Committee that's just been appointed, they're going to be overwhelmed with submissions, and they'll come back and ask everybody to kind of take a cut at it. So if you ask for too much early on, so it's like anything else. You're trying to negotiate what will bring you the most success. So those are just a few thoughts on the T-Splosh.
Yeah, Blaine, actually, in my writing of the rationale for the trail, that's exactly what I argued was the potential of connecting things ultimately all the way downtown. And we actually, Mike and I talked with Todd Miller in Parks about this, for the bulk of the year. So I think, we can we already have put forward a carefully worded rationale, for that. And I think that's why it makes some sense to take another look at some of these projects and say, well, let's add in some key thoughts where maybe the mayor and commission haven't got that information, or even if they have, to make the connections known. So yeah, Mike, I think, we probably need as a group, to look at some of these other things that have come out of the user group, like the possibility of a traffic light for that new development on Lexington, connected to the idea of the entrance,
Diane,
Yeah.
I'd like to add one thing. Blaine mentioned parking lot. One thing that we had talked about in the past, and Jacob had come up with a conceptual drawing, was a parking deck. The FAA will fund that, but who knows when. But even at that, if they fund it, we can't charge for it. Not that we would anytime soon, but it would prevent us from charging for that parking. But if we built it with T-Splosh, we'd be able to charge for parking. And a lot of airports make good revenue off of parking. So that's just something to think about too in the future as we move along. And we do get airline service, and we get an abundance, of folks coming in. At some point, we may want to charge for parking. But if FAA funded, you can't do it. So anyway, just something to think about as we move forward too.
Okay, well, staying on the same topic, the next item is just a little update on the micro park. As all of you know, and Blaine, you as well, Mike and I have been working for over a year now, also with Todd Miller, on that little tract of ground enclosed in the circle on the airport property. To the one side of where there would be the parking deck, if you put it. It's where the grove of pecans and catalpa trees is. And so having worked with Todd Miller on it, and it's actually also, he's put it on his potential map of the trail network, where all of those arguments actually also apply to it, because it could be connected to that trail around the airport and the Firefly, etc. I'm happy to give the little update, and that is that actually, starting small, 4 items have been ordered for that micro park: a picnic table, a bench with an engraved brass plaque, and then the 2 accessories, the dog cleanup station and the garbage bin. But I'm happy to report those have been ordered. The bench is a donation, a private donation, and the group or the family that is donating those wishes for that to be anonymous. But I think by the time it's installed and you see the plaque on it, then you'll know. But it's a small beginning, and it basically will make that micro park, little patch of green space on the airport property, part of the overall green space landscape in the community. So we're pleased, and actually because of the slowness in delivery and construction and gathering materials, we won't get the goods until, what was it, Mike? End of August, September.
Yeah.
But, I'm not surprised at that. So, Mike, you said you also had a couple of follow-up things you wanted to say about like concrete or the like.
Yes, we as soon as they come in, and probably prior, we've been working with our maintenance person. We'll be able to put some concrete pads down there and anchor them as well. And then also, we also want to look in front of the terminal. David and I have talked about this, putting a picnic bench in front of the terminal that's more inviting when people come in. It was funny, after we talked about it, I went outside the terminal probably a week or 2 later, and I saw a family right up against the fence, the outside of the fence, having a picnic. And it would have been nice, if they could have gone through and to a picnic table and enjoyed the other side of the terminal, instead of feel like, they're hindered by a fence. But that's something we're working on too. When we do get this equipment, we'll put all that together, and we have certain pads we need to do. Like I told you, that truck regeneration as well at the FAA. I got to put a concrete pad there, so we've got a location for that. We got a location for the picnic table for the terminal, and then concrete pads for the items that we're going to put in the micro park. So all that'll be done all at once.
Yeah, so, and it's something again that, our long-term desire to attract members of the community to the airport, like you said, families wanting to bring the kids to look at the planes. And after our visit to Greenville, where we also saw at that airport playground, she didn't build that in a year. It took her 12 years, but there's only one way to start, and that's at the beginning. So I'm really pleased that those items have been ordered, and we can look forward to them coming. So,
Me too.
all right. Any comments, questions about those? Okay. Well, the last two items under old business are the two documents I've been sharing with you in previous meetings. One of them is that 2-page fact sheet. I sent you the final version of that yesterday, and Blaine, certainly we must send you one now.
It did. I sent it to him this morning.
Okay. Good. I've printed mine on cardstock, which is actually good. When it's two-sided, it actually reads much better. And actually, when Mike mentioned the Black Hawk helicopters that were here with the ROTC students and everything, Carol Myers had asked me to meet with her again and chat about things. She's interested in the airport and Lexington Road. So she actually came to the airport that day and saw the helicopters and the whole event. We did incorporate her input. She suggested on the top of that 2-page document, which I sent to all of you, there's a highlighted window, if you like, a frame in which we have put up front, and that was Carol's suggestion, put up front that the airport is running at a profit, that it's running in the black, and that it actually takes no money from the general fund. So we did take her suggestion on that. I still left the details about revenues and the budget on the back, on the second page, but I think that was a good suggestion. So this one, as well as the diagram about all the different ways in which the airport is a destination that I gave you, I sent you that copy as well. Mike says those are going to the printers or have already gone to the printers. And I think that, I can only urge you that in whatever capacity or wherever you have an opportunity to share the information, please do. I think that we all are in agreement. And actually, even Commissioner Myers said the more people you can get the information out to, the better. So Mike mentioned to me and Keith yesterday in a discussion, and he can share with you several different offices and, groups of people that he's going to send the information to. And I think that, in your own capacities, we would urge you to do likewise. The more people we can share the information with, the better, because there's information on both of those documents that most people, certainly the general public, do not know about the airport. And remember that these can be updated quite regularly. I've got the original copies. These are PDFs that I've sent out, but, we can update them as needed on a regular basis. So Mike, if you want to just share with us some of your thoughts. You sort of reeled off about 6 or 8 yesterday, where you
Yeah, I can
plan
see
to
some.
distribute the information.
I can see great benefit in getting this to economic development. They get prospects every now and then that always request a lot of this information. Also, the chamber, David Bradley, get some of this to him as well. And then, as I go around and talk to the different groups, as I mentioned, I guess a month ago, I talked to Rotary not too long ago and handed out some things. But things like this is always nice to have. As I talk about the airport, a little bit about, what advantages the airport is to the community. That's always important. That's something that's key. That lesson I did a lot of, when we tag team, going around to some of the groups, letting them know, that we are a benefit to the community. We're not just an empty, wasteland out here, in the middle of Athens, that we actually do have a lot of things happening. Our revenues are contribute to the community. So all of that has to be, they all have to learn it because a lot of people just don't realize it. And so I think this information is good. And it's still a working draft. If anybody sees anything they want to add or change, we can always do that too.
I'll just let you know. I actually added, Grant Tribble gave us input last time for this diagram. He talked about, the Army National Guard and other groups that use the airport for staging operations during an emergency. So we did include his input as well. I do, Mike and I talked about the fact that we hope that, we'd like to see it put up on the website, the airport website, and also on the Facebook page. And I guess, Angela, we need to ask you to do that, or you will be doing that. And then there can be copies, multiple copies left at the reception desk in the flight center, also in the terminal. And I've given you all copies that you can duplicate if you like, and distribute. So, Les, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I think Mike got me thinking. I think the elevator speech that we were always trying to get across is that the airport is an untapped economic resource to the city and the county, and that was the main message. You may never, as a citizen, use it, but it's what will help us attract more jobs, put people to work, and that was sort of the overriding umbrella when Mike and I would go to the Rotary and the Kiwanis and the Chamber. Was no matter what details we had, was to always go back to that we are an untapped economic resource. And yeah, I know that the question on the survey we did was going to be, I actually took the survey, it was in our water bill, the perception survey, and that's where we'll begin to be able to see if people agree that our baseline. And that was what we were trying to make sure that everyone knew, that whether or not we get air service or whatever, this is an untapped economic resource. It's pretty self-sufficient, but we're just barely tapped the surface of what we can do for the economic health of the county.
Well, I think that's really what was at the heart of my starting to work on this, because it helps to have something concrete to hand out. And actually, another thing, I agree with Carol Myers. She mentioned it, and that is, please get this to all the other commissioners. We have some new commissioners on board now, and they don't have all of this information, and we certainly want them to have the information. So I think that the more we can actually distribute it, the better. And I think the more we can keep it current, the better. All the ways in which the airport is a destination is certainly not, information that people have. It's seen as a place that serves a small elite, in the words of one person. We don't want that perception to be left unchallenged. So I hope, if you have any further ideas on keeping this going, keeping it updated, do let us know. And, I'm going to print off some copies, but feel free to use it. I asked Mike if that was okay, to urge you, and he said, yeah. So feel free to pass it around to your colleagues or wherever. So thank you, Mike. Keith and I worked closely together on this, and we kept going back to Mike round after round. So Mike spent a lot of time on both of these, and I do thank you. I hope that it pays off. So actually, without anything else, the only other item on the agenda is if there are any updates from the standing committees or any issues. Keith, your committee business?
Yeah, no updates, except for us. We kind of touched on this today just a bit, that we'll, going forward, at the right point here, we'll need to be reviewing our plans versus what we're following, strategic plans and all those, and make sure that our reporting and all is in sync with what helps support what Mike needs and what this team needs. So, but really no updates.
Yeah, and Keith and I have already put in place the first step in that plan for looking at the strategic plan and updating that will come down the road. So thank you, Keith. David, operating, anything from planning or any other follow-up from our last round? plan developments and anything?
No, I have not heard anything back from planning or anything beyond that. I did have a brief discussion with the incoming president of the UGA Aviation Club. We'll probably meet together to see what kind of events we can get
Okay.
listed for the coming fall. We've got some time. Hopefully, I'll have a sit down with her sometime before our next meeting and give a briefing on what we've discussed there and what they're able to commit to and so forth.
Okay.
Some of those hot dog type.
Okay. I see you've got 2 intact shoulders again.
I do. Physical therapy is ongoing, but yes, I'm up to about 80-90% range of motion and like 2% strength. But getting there.
Good show. Okay. And then I guess Grant didn't make it. Hey, Mike, I don't see him anywhere.
He texted me, said he was dealing with a small crisis.
Okay.
But I can tell you, as far as air service development goes, we're still moving forward with that. I haven't talked to any of the airlines or heard from them yet, but I do know that they're working on some feasibility studies on us. American is, and hopefully another one is too. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Maybe, and I guess you hear all the. I tell you what, a lot of people have said that it's going to take a long time for the airlines to get back and up and running. I always thought different, but I kept hearing that from everybody. And my gut said, no, it's going to come really quick. And here it is. Now they got a pilot shortage and they can't get planes up in the air. So I'm really glad to hear all of that. But maybe things will be improving soon.
Well, we'll be ready, won't we?
And we will.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts in closing? Any other business? Well, I guess the next big thing on the agenda, if you come to the fireworks, maybe we'll see you there.
Yeah.
I really hope people leave their animals at home this time. Last time there were so many people there with dogs, and the dogs were petrified. So anyway, I intend to go. And so, okay, well, I certainly appreciate everybody hanging through all of these items. And I guess at the end of the meeting, I could ask for somebody to propose that we adjourn. Anybody want to leave? Liz wants to adjourn. Okay. Second? Keith wants to leave. Okay. All in favor of adjourning? Okay. Thank you for coming, Blaine. We understand how busy you are, but it really was nice to see you, and you'll be welcome anytime that you can make it.
Thank you. Thank you all for your service. Thank you, Les.
Thank you, Les. You guys take
Thanks,
care.
Les.
Thank you, Les.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Liz.
all, and
Bye,
I'll still be
Susie.
around. So yeah, I'm back inside. Started getting hot out there. So,
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
See you
Good
later.
afternoon,
Bye, all.
everybody.
thank you.
Bye, Angela.